Welcome to Curious Chimps podcast. I'm your co-host Nathaniel Pearl,
And I'm Sam Sheva.
and welcome.
Remember that one time it was me and you, and we were in Alexa's basement.
Oh fuck
And,
yeah!
like, you brought it up so many times. Like I
Dude.
hypnotized you guys into like relaxation. You were like, dude, do it again. How'd you do that? Oh my god, it was amazing.
Dude, that was incredible. It was like a guided meditation, but I don't even know what you were saying. It was just it flowed with the whole experience.
Yeah, I can only do it in English because it's like that complicated.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, well, I mean, honestly, if you just Google relaxation induction, that's kind of like the terminology for hypnosis, and then it's just this idea of like walking someone down into like a state of parasympathetic activation through, like breathing cues, and then like, oh, flex this, relax this, and then like you're forcing yourself to really go into like a somatic forced relaxation, but you're not doing anything. You're just listening to me. That's like the hypnosis mentality.
Yeah.
Is give yourself to me, trust me, just follow my voice. In other situations, it's implied. Like there's an exact same technique called yoga nidra, and I mean not exact same there, but it's like the idea that you're going through a guided meditation, and it's different. There's something easier about it because you can really go in the back seat and read a magazine, like Paul Selig says, and
Yeah. Well, it's something to anchor onto, right? So it keeps you, instead of focusing on your thoughts, you have that anchor point that you can latch onto, and that anchor point is just a guide.
it's like you're being towed.
Yeah.
That's a funny way of putting it. Like you could really sit back and then because if you're meditating, then all this stuff comes up and then you address it, and there's kind of this like alertness that comes with it. And then you're trying to third person while kind of like playing the game and mediating the game at the same time, whereas if I'm doing it for you, or someone's doing it for you, you can go really deep really fast.
That's the same kind of mentality I get in yoga practice. It's like I can do it on my own, but when I'm in a class setting or with a good instructor, it's just like I can forget me for that brief hour and just follow the flow. That's why I prefer classes than practicing alone. Maybe later on I'll start diving into more alone practices, but for me personally, I don't know why, but it's easy for me to just forget everything and just go into the flow,
I'm the opposite, and I think about it often because a lot of friends are like, hey, you want to just do yoga? Like they come over, I have a beautiful backyard, it's nice outside, and they're like, let's just bust out some asana. And I'm like, I get cagey. It's weird. It's like I can't really put my finger on it. Like I said, I've thought about it before. Something about me being shy, something about me I'm used to doing it alone, and as soon as there's another person there, maybe there's like an expectation to be like at a certain aptitude, like at a certain level, and obviously that's something you want to avoid in general in yoga practice, maybe just in life.
Yeah.
Like what's that expression, like comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, well, okay.
It's a fucking hard, it's a clear
Comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah.
It's a really concise, I don't remember who said it, but it was really, it's like a little pill of wisdom.
Yeah.
Like really conservation of words and just
So you would be good at a Vipassana. Well, you've done them already.
I did Vipassana, yeah. And I really loved it. I mean, it's so regenerating. I guess I'm somewhere in between, like if you buy into the introvert extrovert stuff, like I love people, I need people. I kind of have like this appeal to authority in the way my brain works. So for me to learn anything new, to accept new realities, someone kind of has to do it first.
Okay.
I'm not the person who's it's like in that department, I lack imagination. It's hard for me to just go, okay, this is reality now based on what I've observed. That takes a lot of time to crack through, and it's like you're breaking through a real crust.
Maybe we should go into what Vipassana is for those who are listening don't even know.
Vipassana is...
Like I never even experienced it yet. It's something on my list, but I'm very familiar with the concepts. But
I know you'd love it, actually.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is your impression of Vipassana? And then I could interject or something.
Sweet, yeah. So from my understanding is from talking from people I know about it, and the way they explain it is it's a 10-day silent retreat, right? It's and there's like specific tasks you do, but there's no phone, there's no communication. It's just pure silence. And from how I was explained and how I interpret it is that they teach you a way of meditation that's progressive as the week goes on, as the 10 days go on. And it starts with, I think, you just sit in silence in the beginning and you focus on one point of the body. I think they start with like the nose, just create as much awareness to that specific point. And then as your practice continues and the next day follows, they start adding a bigger state of awareness. Okay, you did your nose, now we'll focus on your whole face. Put your awareness there, and then the goal is by the 10th day is that you've done a complete body scan, and it's really just feeling any type of sensation in your body as a witness and observer, not as a reaction. So it's really separating you from physical sensation, emotional sensation, and observing it rather than being it. So that's the main thing I took away from it. And I see that in my yoga practice. Is like I'll go into a deep stretch, whereas I used to care about how it looks and how, am I doing this pose right? Is my arm high enough? Is my leg bent enough? To more just, how does my body feel and what does it need? What is it asking of me? So I was just wondering, like, I guess that's the same concept with Vipassana, but it's a little bit more cerebral. It's because there's not much movement happening, right?
I've thought of the parallel often, and there is like a definite, like, there's like a silence in yoga. In a lot of the practices, there's this, like, whatever kind of, generically speaking, removal of the self or something to notice what's really there, like, if you want to put it in a really broad way. And so I totally get what you're saying when you like inject it into asana, because it's like a holding and an awareness essentially. But I guess if you keep the parallel, it's like it's analogous. It's not like it's pretty much the same thing. It's like you're holding a pose for 10 days.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is why everything you said is perfect description from my experience. My experience wasn't totally traditional because it was in Canada.
Okay.
I think the real ones, there's like, like let's say the older ones, there's these white rooms, like these tiny closets, and you do some group meditating, you learn the technique that you're talking about, and it is simply put a body awareness, body scanning kind of technique, and a lot of weird stuff comes up. It's kind of fun.
Really?
It's something. But so where I did it, as much removal as possible of all stimuli happens. Like they would kill you if they could bring you back. Like it's just the technique. I used to be afraid of talking about it, of being like, oh, this is the technique, like as if I'm giving people the technique.
Okay. And
they're gonna do it wrong or something. And maybe there is a little, I don't want to say danger there, but like something like that. Like you're not getting the full experience, and that's my point, is that you have to go there. You have to do it. Vipassana comes from Gautama Buddha, like the Buddha. He was like, this is how to make ordinary people wake the fuck up. And Vipassana, I don't remember exactly what it means, but it means like only what's real, or like what is there. Okay. So you're practicing, and there's no chanting. It's not a name of God. It's not even God. It's you. What can you actually feel? What are you actually experiencing? When you're scanning your body, your brain even like has this habit to picture the body or to feel the body. Your eyes might even dart back and forth as you're scanning, like from one arm to the other or something. But the truth of it is that you're seeing black. Your eyes are closed. So like look at the black kind of thing, you know, and then there's like a centering of that. Feel your actual body, feel your breath. A lot of times I was unconsciously holding my breath also, because then I could feel my pulse in different parts of my body. And then someone pointed it out, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize I was doing that. It's like you're always finding ways to like alter or distort, and then you notice that in Vipassana, and it's about going there. And 10 days of like,
it's a big commitment, right? You're pretty much 10 days you're dropping your life, because
you need to have I was lucky at the time. I was able to get off work, and I had like a flexible schedule, quote unquote.
I mean, that's like already part of the practice, is just getting there, right? You're committing to a 10-day.
I see it a bit like ayahuasca, like the universe kind of lets you do it. Like something,
things just align up. It's more of a calling in a sense. Like it's like before it feels right, you need that little nudge, and it's like, oh shit, I have the open schedule now. It just appeared.
And I didn't get that with ayahuasca in terms of schedule also, because I just had a very free schedule at the time. But with with Vipassana, it was like what people talk about with ayahuasca. It's like a friend comes out of nowhere. He's like a guy I trust and I admire. He's like a little older than me, very successful guy. And he's like, dude, you would love Vipassana. This guy's done like fire walking. He's done like a bunch of psychedelics. And
Sweet.
And he's like a businessman, you know, he's like an entrepreneur.
Sweet.
So it's easy to be like in admiration, you know? And then he goes like, he just like, you could see that there's like truth going through the guy, and he just looks at me and goes, you should do Vipassana. It
resonates with you right away.
Yeah, but like not in the, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. But like something really does get tickled.
Yeah.
You know, with ayahuasca, I was always like kind of resistant. And that was the tickle is what I found out later. But with Vipassana, it was like, oh, you like meditation? This is like a group of monks who devoted their lives to preserving exactly what the Buddha taught. And it's like a mini, it's almost like a substanceless trip, which is why it's drawn out. You know, it's, you push the fast forward button with some rapé and some ayahuasca and some psilocybin and whatever, which is not necessarily a bad thing if you do it right. But with Vipassana, you know, like you just said now, like you're like, someone tells you to do it, you get the calling, you feel like better about it. I didn't feel better about it. My personality doesn't apply to everyone, but like I had to, like, I'm the kind of person who kind of like doesn't really want to do the thing, and then I'm on the plane and I'm like, well, I'm doing the thing, like it's too late.
You kind of just have to put yourself in it, like immersed, and then you accept it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I accept it after. Like I just like something in my subconscious goes, this is good for you, do this. And before I have a chance to resist, it's like I'm always pressing the reboot. I'm like my brain's like, don't do this. I'm like, don't do this. No, this is reasons, excuses, reboot. And then I'm like, oh, well, I'm on the proverbial plane, you know, like it's too late. I've jumped off the cliff, so to speak.
And just find your way through that. Yeah.
Now it's like, figure it out. And I like doing that because there's anxiety, and anxiety feels like you're dying, but you're not. So you're just like, I'm okay. Yeah. You know, like I thought I wouldn't be okay. A part of me knew I would be, and here I am. And I mean, you go through that like 10 times in some, or I did anyway with Vipassana. It's like I get there, I'm confused, I'm a little shy, and then it's like, oh, by the way, like there's going to be like a little orientation, and then you don't talk, you don't look at anybody, you don't kill any insects, nothing. The only reason you don't talk, I found out later, is because the point is not to lie. There's a deep yoga to Vipassana. There's a huge like understanding of what's going on energetically. So the point is, don't like muddy your aura, if you want to put it in some new age like simplistic way. Like don't kill something, even if it's an insect, even if like you can't recreate that, you can't make that. So karmically you're denting the universe. You're doing something that's going to come back to you. And don't lie is hard, so they just tell you don't talk. You know,
it makes sense though, because when you start interpreting it outside to someone else, it starts getting influenced by other factors, right? Yeah, and you really notice it at the end of those 10 days. You know, like things hit you like waves. You start realizing like your own thoughts coming in different ways, and when people talk to you, again, it's like waves. Like oh, I just noticed this guy move a little, like his face twitch or something, whatever, you know, like example A, and whatever the truth of that experience was is not really relevant, but it's like you just pick up on energy came out of this guy, something different. You thought there was something coming in, so you had a channel open, another channel got a knock on the door, and it's so loud, it's so much louder than it was, and it goes away fast. That's what's annoying, is like, well, I mean, you've cut out all stimulus and then bringing all that back in at once, right? Coming back to regular life, I can imagine that's where the real practice starts as well, is finding that silence and that disassociation in the immersed in association, right? There's so much going on here in the city and in life in general, you know?
Yeah, you put it perfectly. Like,
and what I've noticed with all these practices, yoga, Vipassana, ayahuasca, all the psychedelics,
I like how you called ayahuasca a practice, because it is.
That's a fucking practice, man. You've been there, you know how it is. But it's like a common theme that's been showing up. It's practiced by reducing things, and it's reducing the noise to the point of just a state of awareness. And like all these practices in Africa, they do some type of dance. medicine men used to do 24-hour rhythmic dancing around the fire with the drums, and apparently that would put you in a psychedelic state, an altered state. And what's happening there is you're constantly moving till you almost lose yourself. And that's their form of Vipassana. They're probably getting the same kind of effects through dance, whereas the monks and then the yogis would find Vipassana where it's more silence, or yoga where they get into that state through movement. And then the final pose is what? It's
Shavasana.
Shavasana, yeah.
The corpse pose.
And that the whole point of yoga is to get you into that pose in silence where there's nothing left to give. And so it's really about reduction, just reducing.
They always joke that it's the hardest pose. You said it a few sentences ago, and I loved it. It's like you're immersing yourself in association and then disassociating.
Yeah.
Like the association is what's actually happening, so you have to accept it. But the disassociation is like your choice of not letting it in really deep, not letting it touch the source.
Yeah.
And then just kind of moving freely, because there is that little piece of you that is free or something.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to put into words.
But how fucking hard is that in general? Disassociation.
Like, I mean, we were talking earlier in the car, or no, in the park there, and you were saying like, I've been eating a little shittier lately. Yeah. And I have too. You know, and that's why I felt shitty this morning. Yeah. Is like this accumulation. My point is, I was gonna rant, but like my point is that it seems hard in the moment, but there's all these tiny decisions, and then like a month later, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
And one of those decisions could be a shot of rapé through the fucking nostrils, or an ayahuasca ceremony, or keeping your yoga or Vipassana practice up, even if it's 20 minutes a day.
Or a cold shower. It can bring you right back into it. It's so crazy. Yeah. And that's what's so mind-blowing. I've been starting the cold showers lately.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my God, dude.
I engaged protocol Wim Hof. It got a little cold outside, and I said, nope, I'm getting out of it.
And then you catch yourself like complaining about cold, and then after the cold shower, you're like, wow, like I was being such a bitch. You know? It's
the same thing. It's the anxiety. It's like this fear of the future and just being uncomfortable. And for for a lot of people, I think for most people, it's just a problem.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's just like this anxiety. Anxiety is only that. Anxiety is this fear of discomfort in the future because you experienced discomfort in the past. And then there's, I mean, for me personally, and cold showers are a good example, there's almost this like addictive property of how you feel after. And that could literally be there when it comes to some tobacco substance or cold showers, because it gives you like endorphins and whatnot.
Yeah.
But an addiction, I don't think an addiction is a bad thing when the benefits are there, obviously, like the benefits outweigh the cost. But B, the cost is like there's effort involved. If it's instant gratification, then there's no vulnerability, there's no integration, there's no real growth. Like today was a good example. You know, like I feel crappy. I justify my feeling in the moment, and I look at my life with that lens where the truth is it's a bunch of tiny decisions that got me to this feeling today. And then there's a simple little ritual and maybe a substance is involved, and then suddenly I feel better. And it's hard to transition. My ego's like, no, like it's not that easy. I'm a thing. I have power. I felt a certain way. I had reasons to feel that way. I can't just take a thing or do a thing and feel better. But the truth, anyone who's been depressed, they tell you, I need to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. I need to go to the gym. That shit helps me. It doesn't even cure me. It just takes the edge off. Yeah. But that's like 5 days a week fucking pumping iron or whatever. Yeah. And it's hard for some reason. We're a lot of us are very cerebral and we forget about the somatic, and we just say, I can't take a pill and it's going to fix me. I can't just do some ceremony and it's going to fix me. And they all have that parallel. I can't just drink a bunch of booze and it's going to fix me either. They're all jumbled together. Yeah. I guess my point before was that like it's a lot easier to down like 7 drinks and feel good and feel a little shitty the next day and then take a little hair of the dog and just kind of do the whole thing all over again. Whereas if you do yoga, it's like
there's a bit of a struggle involved, right?
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not an instant gratification. There's work to be done to get to that state. Whereas if you down your shots, it's how much effort was involved behind that.
And the amount of effort is proportionate to the result.
It's true, because you'll get that feeling quick, and it will drop quick too.
Yeah.
Whereas you do a nice yoga class, you're good for a few days. You feel vibrant. It's I think that's what it comes down to, is the duration of struggle before it gives you that gratification, right? And it's like, I've noticed that when I did my fast, the 7-day fast, I had to stop at 6 days because I messed up big time. I went to a water park with some buddies.
So you burnt a lot of calories kind of thing?
Oh yeah, it just so happened that it was 40 degrees that day. It was It was one of those weekends where it was like we had a heat wave. So we were at the water park, and I'm just waiting in line with no food in my system for 6 days and just pounding sun on my head. My friends got worried about me. I was like hallucinating and just walking around. I
start feeling your heart in your chest?
I don't even know it. I was not even in my body at that point. I was like, so
that happened like day 4 and you just kept going?
Yeah, well,
I know when you feel like you're dying but you don't know why. Like that's only happened to me during fasting, is like my heart's just and I'm like, this is not normal. I don't usually feel my heart like that.
I felt amazing the whole way through. It was just that moment was like, okay, you're burning X amount of calories and you have nothing in your system, your reservoir, to sustain this type of strenuous activity. And that activity was just being in the sun, how much heat you're actually producing to cool off, right? It's
you needed some Gatorade in that moment. You needed some sugar salt.
Yeah, so water. I did a BCA drink. It kind of helped, but there's still no calories there. So it was just, I did one ride and then I laid down the rest of the day on some lawn chair. I was out cold.
I am dying. Go on without me.
But that fast though, it's an example. It's 6 days of struggle or 7 days of struggle. You can imagine the prolonged lasting effects afterwards from that duration, right? And it's the same thing with Vipassana. You do your 10 days, that's a commitment. And that's going to carry on tenfold when you come back to reality,
Yeah, you're right. And it drills a technique into you. Like those 10 days, I mean, I love the attention to detail in Vipassana. I really find it's like the cold showers, the Vipassana, the drum circles and stuff you were talking about. It's like this substanceless life hack. Not life hack, like you're literally hacking your biology. I don't want to say life hack. It's like literally like they're finding how something works and then they're pushing the button like 20 times to see what happens. Then they're saying, what if I do this and then do that? And then like the Buddha, that's how they describe him, is like some kind of philosophy scientist. He just sits there and feels and goes, oh, okay, like this is a thing. I feel this. I'm aware of this. Now, what if can I control this? Can I move this? Can I upregulate, downregulate this thing, whatever this thing is? And then just do that like 100 times. And then like you exponentially build like tools of awareness and go internally like infinitely until you're feeling yourself at like a subatomic level and realizing that all of life is this like in and out blip of life and death constantly. And like everything beyond that is a complete bullshit story that is just like
should be labeled.
Yeah, like labeling it. Like we're just labelers. We're label machines. As human, we're just telling. It's just reference.
We're just printing out words and putting it to each thing we see.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to that, I guess.
Yeah, but that's fascinating. It really comes down to it, and that's a good realization that it's the duration of struggle of whatever you're doing will amplify the reverse, right? The benefit, right? So that's
it's
why.
It's like blood in, blood out, sort of. If you drink, you get it fast, it leaves fast. You don't feel great after.
That's crazy. I didn't think of it like that, but it's exactly it, right? You do an intense hour workout at the gym where you leave it all at the gym. You go home and like whatever problems that were lingering around you in your life, etc. I wouldn't say they go away because they don't. They're always there, but your perception around them, the weight that you've held onto, it's kind of released a little bit.
Life's gray, right?
Yeah.
So if you're seeing things black or white, it's you.
Yeah.
It's not life.
Yeah.
I guess life will like there'll be moments, there'll be peaks and valleys, like everyone says, but there is this kind of melange that's like ever prevalent, and that's kind of just the instant red flag, is to be like, oh no, everything is black, everything seems bleak and wrong. Then it's like, okay, that's not the world, that's you.
Yeah.
You're just focusing on a section.
And the whole thing is like what we were carrying on before, is that it's not one thing will fix your depression or one thing will fix this. It's accumulation of all those little mini struggles, the cold shower, the training, the yoga, the meditation. They're all little pieces of the puzzle. And then over time, when a month later, you're like, holy shit, where does this perspective come from? It's just Well, it came from all your decisions you made that whole month of, okay, I'm going to commit to the cold shower. I'm going to start doing my practice. And it's just over repetition over time. That's the results, right? And we kind of, especially nowadays, is we're so, everything's so quick in terms of stimulus and gratification and notifications and all that kind of stuff. So when you break it down where you create little mini struggles here and there, everything you start, okay, I'm going to wake up a little bit earlier. I'm going to do my 5-minute cold shower. And that over time creates this mindset that you've built yourself, that you've accumulated. And that's profound. That's the growth, right? It's not in the moment, but it's where it's going to lead to.
Yeah, it's like, it's hard to see the value of saving up. And that's kind of what you're describing. Yeah. It's like you're you know, like you work at an office somewhere and they're like, hey, give us like 10% of your paycheck and we'll put it in like some shares or something. And you don't think about it. And then the funny thing is you adjust. So it doesn't deplete you in any way. And then 5 years later, you have like $5,000 in some account somewhere and you didn't even realize it. Yeah. And it didn't cut anything out of your life. And now you have more than you thought you did. And that's a pretty good parallel. It's like
it's great.
I think that's kind of why I like things like a you know, a ayahuasca ceremony or Vipassana. There's something, obviously there's a struggle there. There's a breaking of your routine and it's not exactly easy, but it's kind of what I was talking about earlier about like you're on the plane, it's too late kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice in between of like, I just have to fall now. And maybe that's bad too, because there could be a lot more engagement and then you get more out of it. But maybe that's
go the other way as well though. Right?
Yeah, you could try too hard. Yeah. You could not be, you could just be there, just do the thing. Yeah. You know, sometimes when I talk that way, I wonder if it's just my ego trying to go like, oh no, like this is where I control. This is, you're just trying to define what you control. Yeah. And you were saying earlier, like there's not much to control there, which is a weird thing to wrap our heads around. Even for me, I'm like innately philosophical, but to say like I'm not in control of my the bad things that happen to me, the good things that happen to me, it's really just my attitude. And that shines the most. I see my faults and my virtues when it's the cold shower or when it's yoga, because it's micro decisions, it's every day, it's a routine, it's maintenance, it's I don't feel like it today, but I do it anyway. Yeah.
It's never easy. That's what I love about it. It's just,
I hate that. You love that? I hate that.
I love when you go into the fire and it's just burning and you're okay, I gotta accept it. You know?
I guess so. I don't know.
That's why the cold shower, there's never a fucking moment that you're like, yeah, I want this. I mean, in a sense you do, but you really don't until you get into it. And then you get past that little resistance and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, it's not bad at all. Yeah. But there's always that, oh, fuck. Like no one's waking up at 6 a.m. saying, yeah, it's cold shower time. I mean, you are to pump yourself up, but at a deeper level.
I hope. Like, what's your impression on this? Like, I hope, and it started happening. It still hasn't happened with something like yoga, but like there's this, I don't want to do it, and then you do it. And then when you're done, and not a moment before, you're like, I'm glad I did this. A lot of things in my life are like that. I call it going to the gym, because you never want to go, and you're always happy that you went when you're leaving. Yeah. There's always that feeling of, I'm so glad I did that. But it starts, like when the benefits start showing, and cold shower is a good example, because you just feel amazing when you get out of there. You feel like $1 million. You can't avoid that. You're just like, you could have been depressed. You could have been this or that. Your ego is holding on to these like labels, like we were saying, but your body just feels 1,000,000 times better. That starts imprinting into your consciousness, and your waking actual self goes, oh no, I want to do this. And then eventually, I hope, maybe it takes like 5 years for some people. Maybe it just takes 2 weeks for some other person, depending on your personality. But like the value of it is ingrained in you, and then it catches up, and you do wake up and say, oh, cold shower time. Like, I can't wait.
I think the more you do anything like that, where the cold showers, the gym, over time, that resistance gets smaller and smaller. That voice that says, I don't feel like doing it. But I don't think it's ever possible to fully eliminate it, because we all have that inner demon that just wants to fucking curl up in a ball and do its own thing. So I think over time, that 5-year example, there may be once a week you don't want to do it. And then you kind of laugh at yourself because you go anyway. But it's like when you start something, there's so much resistance behind it. Like, fuck, cold shower? I can't do it. Think if you took 2 months off cold showers or whatever, a year, or your first time ever jumping in. Like, the idea of it is terrifying.
It sucks again.
Yeah, and it sucks. It's like even in yoga practice, if you stop for a year and you go back into it, everything is off.
It sucks harder because you let yourself slide down the spiral, which seems effortless. Yeah. Whereas climbing takes consciousness.
It's so easy to fall back down.
Actually, about that though, I feel like that's a lie. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love your opinion on that, because I had this little moment, this little like visual epiphany once, and it was like a series of doorways. You know, like every decision, like I have a path and it's winding and weird and it doesn't really matter where it ends, but it's just this thing. It's my life before me, you know? And every step or every kind of like major or minor decision looked like this series of doors, like I'm playing a game show. And there's like, you know, there's like 10 doors. So the path of no resistance and no change and no consciousness is just taking that middle door. And then you're like a Plinko. You're just going where you're going. It's already where you start now is there's a path you could end up at if you put no energy, essentially. And that's bad. Yeah. Probably. Maybe you're lucky, maybe it ends up somewhere cool, but you still didn't do anything. You didn't resist much, you didn't accept much, you just kind of floated, you were unconscious, there was no growth, you didn't add anything to yourself or to the world, to say the least.
So we can call that like the base level, right?
Sort of, yeah. It's the center. It's this energyless nonsense. And then I realized that let's say the rightmost door was the best decision I could take in that moment, and the leftmost door was the most hurtful decision I could take for myself, and subsequently for all my loved ones and the world, if you want to really like go deep.
Yeah, and amplify it.
And my realization was that these take the same amount of energy. Yeah. So maybe it's bullshit to kind of think of it like a spiral. Like there is something easy about fucking off, but it's not easy. It's just this habituation to resistance. But acceptance takes as much energy as resistance. It's just the other side of the same coin. And I don't know, like, does that sound right to you? Like maybe I'm just putting it in a way where it sounds good, but like it's not always my experience. Yeah. I just feel like if I untighten my grip, so to speak, then I just slide the fuck down, down, and then maybe the reason why it feels like it gains momentum and it's gravity down is easier is because as I accumulate bad decisions, I get down on myself and I get into that modality of just being shittier and treating myself shittier, and then there becomes, I think self-sabotage is the word. It becomes like, what I start questioning, what do I deserve? What is my worth? Like these crazy questions that should never be asked, but they're just part of my...
Well, that's the momentum in that doorway, right? It's if you go down that spiral, like the negative feelings and thoughts are just propelling it further and further in. Whereas if you went down the right doorway where it's whatever it is, we can use the gym as always an example. It's like over time, that becomes almost effortless because it's just like habitually part of you now. Whereas the other way, if you went down the fucking off route, that's endless as well. And it propels itself in a more negative state,
That's momentum is momentum.
It's momentum, man.
I always say this. I got it from Mark Passio. He's a very eager beaver kind of like aggressive human being, and he often says like there's no innate good or bad to humans, which makes it easy to forgive everybody if you really believe that, or observe it, I should say, because I think it's true. But he points out that humans are just programmable. That's all we are. There's some predispositions to violence, let's say, which you can argue is evil because we are the surviving evolutionary result. Species. Like we're the guy. We're here. We're the ones who lived. We're the ones who were crazy enough to explore everything. We're the ones who murdered everything and fucked everything until we got here. And that's our DNA. That's our ancestry. That's our literal blueprint. But there's resistance, but that is true. Humans are just programmable. Yeah, we're just like mushy, dumb things. We're one of the only species that we're born and we're like useless and we need to be taken care of. There's like this social aspect that is paramount, that is really, really, really like just, I almost want to call it like the DNA of the species, like this spiritual DNA, is that we're passing down things all the time. Yeah. And anyway, I'm rambling, but like momentum is just momentum. And if I default to like a negative perspective, which isn't necessarily the ego, but is like my observer self being affected or listening to, being changed, being swayed by the ego, then that's a lie, essentially. Yeah. And I don't feel the momentum of the gym and all. I went to the gym for 3 months straight and I got jacked, and my brother was there the whole time. He was pulling me through, you know, and he was like really getting me to a place where I wouldn't have gotten alone, and now I have momentum and I can do some stuff on my own. But like, I don't know, man. I don't see the, I guess, you know, if, again, I can only talk about myself, to be honest. And I guess that's where I need to let go. That's my resistance, is ignore my story.
It's a formula that you can apply, right? Going to the gym 4x a week, over time, if you stay consistent to that formula, it's just going to have the results regardless where your mind's at. At least in the terms of the physical results. The mental results physiologically should change, but mindset's also part of it. But that's momentum. It's just the task carrying on with over a duration of time just becomes stronger and stronger. You know, momentum's an interesting one because it's very real. You know, picture your first time meditating. Like, I barely meditate, but when I commit to sitting down for that 5 minutes, all of a sudden 2 weeks later, that 5 minutes is so much easier. I know it's just because there's a weight of history behind it. The 2 weeks prior of every day doing that momentum that you've created, it's fascinating.
It's a shame. Like, we're pretty much burnt our time already, but like, I would have loved to get into, like, we were talking about integration before. I guess we don't really have time now, but like,
be a good, the next podcast we can talk about integrating all these tools that you've learned through all your practices and how to apply it in a crazy world, right? Where there's just constant stimulus. Yeah.
Like Vipassana, the ceremonies, there's a reason we talk about them and we group them. It's because there's a lot of similarity, and it's like you're
very similar themes
taken out and shown a thing, like recalibrated. And so it's like a car going to the garage. You're not on the road. You're on the lift, you know, something you're not running the way you do.
But it's going back on the same road.
And, exactly.
How the fuck do you drive that?
I want to get into that. Yeah. We should have got into that today, because I'm so curious about it. I mean, you talked about it too, like you had a ceremony and then you wanted to, I mean, like I don't remember exactly what you said, but you expressed like a kind of discomfort or sadness. Yeah. And I was like, oh, he's feeling it too, even though he's like way more experienced with it.
Oh man. It took a week of integration just to get back to baseline. Like, I was so far under. And like, when you're completely destroyed and then coming back to reality without a strong foundation, where you don't even know where ground zero is anymore.
That is exactly how I felt. My integration, it was my first and only time so far.
And just for the listeners, we're talking about ayahuasca. We
ceremony.
Yeah, we partaked in a few ayahuasca ceremonies. Sammy joined me about a month ago.
It's almost a month now, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
That flew by.
Yeah.
3 weeks-ish.
So yeah, and then I went again 2 weeks after for my own continuation of the story of the growth. But yeah, what we want to get into is the integration and what the fuck do you do when you get back? Because that's the real work. Like, ayahuasca is hard work, but the real work is what the fuck do you do when you get back?
It's like there's some sadness in general, let's say, like there's this deep vulnerability. Because the ceremony is 80% of the experience. The ayahuasca is the nos, or the cherry on top, or whatever, and it's imperative. I loved it. It was very beautiful, the whole thing. Yeah. And I don't know, like, all together, it has to all be together, you know? Yeah. And there's this deep vulnerability, like I'm saying. And then you get out, and there's almost this relief, you know? It's like I'm suddenly like, I just feel more zen. Other people are telling me I look more relaxed. I'm acting more conscious, and I can fucking feel it. Yeah. I have this window into the moment now that I just didn't before. And for some reason, my integration was a complete lack of integration. It was just me. I was in this observer seat, and I was just like watching myself do all this stuff that I did before. And I'm smoking weed, and I'm eating garbage food, and I'm like, I'll do some yoga here, I'll go to the gym there. Yeah. And then it started ramping up. It's like I just let the wheel go, and I'm like really not taking care of myself, but I'm just watching the whole time. Yeah. And it took so long because there was such a powerful medicine in that ceremony, but I started losing my grip on it. The benefits whatever you want to call them, they were not permanent.
Yeah.
The only permanence though was the ability to, just the understanding that there's a lot of choice involved, that there's this space, this throne, and the ego doesn't have to sit there. I thought it did. I thought it was me, but it's a thing. And I'm a thing too, but like I'm an accumulation of things. Like this ability to observe, which again I could ramble, and it's beyond conversation, to be honest. All you can do is like, I've been there. I know what you're saying. Yeah. And it's to degrees as well. Yeah. Because then you meet people like Ramdas or something, or whoever, example. Yeah. And they are, the way they look at you, the way they listen to you, even when they're talking, they're listening in some
intense
profound
presence.
Way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
dude, we got to get into integration. I think that is the hardest part, because I see that it can't be taught. I mean, you can get little tidbits of nice, cute quotes and stuff that help, but the integration is all on you. And that's part of the practice, because everyone has their own story and own struggles and own lineage of problems that have accumulated in their life. No one's lived your life. So to integrate, you can get teachings from other people and really gonna get a direction, but it's up to you to navigate that ship, and that's the tough work, man.
It's tough to just sit and watch. Yeah. I mean, which is most of the, maybe I'm wrong, but there's a certain, it's a dance, being passive in terms of like the story, like you were saying, but then being active in everything else, having this kind of enthusiasm
and how to balance it all.
Perspective. Yeah.
Right? It's like juggling 30 things at once. It can be overwhelming, right? Yeah. And I think that's why the spiritual practice, in all aspects, everything you do is constant work, constant fuel to the fire, because there's no moment where you'll achieve pure enlightenment and I'm here, good, clean my hands off, I've made it, I'm there. It's just constant work, and
it's against the grain. That's the funnest part, like everyone says, like, oh, love is our natural state, love is a doing verb thing, like it. Yeah, but I didn't learn any of that shit until I was like 20 something. I was just
how much suffering to get to that state and still continue on, right?
Yeah.
It's like love, suffer, this, suffer, then get back to love, and then back to suffering, happiness, suffering. And we kind of demonize suffering as we'll get into the next podcast, because I want to talk to you about how I was shown suffering, how I've been demonizing that mindset and how it shouldn't be that way, and how you should avoid feeling sad and suffering, and that, no, that shouldn't be part of your life, to embracing that and be like, wow, okay, this is part of it and you can't ignore it. We live in a culture where it's promoted to ignore that side of your mind, where you should be in a good state at all times. It's like whatever you're showing to the public should be positivity, or the negativity will get washed away. No one wants that around.
Yeah. So maybe that's a big reason why the integration can be difficult, is because change is hard in general. Yeah. There's going to be resistance there, like you're like it's slow. It's just slow. And then on top of that, you're surrounded by a bunch of people, whether they have your best interests at heart or not. Somewhere in your mind, you're going to find it hard to change in front of them. They know you, they see you in a certain way. You changing is them changing also. Yeah. And they're going to resist that. And then there's a lot that can come in and help you, and a lot of that can give you that upward momentum. But there's so much like rust that you have to break off, and you could end up just being like a chicken trapped in the shell, sort of, and like you're not ready yet. Yeah. Which is kind of what I was saying before, like my integration was non-integration. Yeah. It was amazing for me to see the low that I had a valley, but there was a clear ability to stay centered. There is now too. Yeah. And there's maybe like all this additional garbage in the psyche of beating myself up for not taking that choice all the time, now that I know it's a choice and all that kind of stuff. But I needed that lack of integration to see the importance of integration. If it just integrated, then I would have missed that.
So and that could be your next lesson at next ceremony, is diving more into that part of it. I'm a little clearer on the direction. Yeah. I just got to face a different direction. There's no that's harder than it sounds sometimes, but that's hard. All it is. Yeah. Is just all we've been talking this whole time. All we've been talking about essentially is like some windy, knotted version of acceptance. Yeah. And there's no way around it. It is knotted. It is weird. It's an undoing of a bunch of crap
and we don't know what's going on, and we're all trying to help each other, and we're all a little lost, and there's a few people who they're calm in the storm, and then you go, hey, how did you do that? And they go like, oh, I'm just, I gotta just let it be. You're like, I can't control the storm. I can only control me. Why would I be a storm in the storm? That's dumb. And then it's stuff like that cracks through, and then you don't care if you're still the chicken stuck in the shell. You're like, I'm cool. I'm here. It's all right. It could be worse. It could be better. But there's no victimization anymore. There's no blame. There's just responsibility. There's just what do I actually do?
Empowerment.
Here and now.
Taking that back into your own hands. Realizing that it's all your decision.
And for a lot of people, we need each other for that. We need permission, which it sucks because there's all this self-empowerment vibe going on these days, and it's been there since the early 80s, It's important.
It's very easy to forget that it's self-empowerment, yes, but there's collective empowerment that's so important too.
Yeah.
We kind of forget about that, is that we're all in this together.
It's hard to know when to do which one also. So a lot of people,
dance. It's just...
It's a dance. It's a cha-cha. There's a lot of times when you when you just want to be with someone and it's to distract yourself.
Yeah.
Like, there's no like real value. There's no honor. It's just
pure
like
distraction.
Yeah. It's like the person is an escape.
Yeah. And that's part of it, man.
That's the time when you need to be alone. And when you don't want to be with people, that's when you should be, maybe.
Yeah.
Again, I can only talk about myself. I'm a freaking ass, man.
All right, brother. We did an hour. Or close to it.
All right, whoever's listening, I fucking love you.
Yeah.
Nate, I fucking love you.
Yeah, brother. Let's keep it going, brother. All right.